Sri Lanka's most powerful news brand.
President Maithripala Sirisena made a special statement today regarding the report and recommendations made by the Presidential Commission inquiry into the Treasury bond issue. The President revealed the contents of the reports in the special statement.
The statement said Perpetual Treasuries Limited had earned profits through means that are not legal with the involvement of Arjuna Mahendran, bank officials and some external parties. The Commission had made recommendations to recover the money that was lost and called for criminal and civil action against those responsible. The President has already submitted a copy of the Commission report to the Attorney General to initiate necessary criminal or civil legal action.
The Commission is of the opinion that similar incidents as revealed in the Commission report had happened even in 2008. The Commission recommends that the Central Bank of Sri Lanka should first conduct a forensic audit with regard to the alleged fraud and corrupt practices from 2008, and based on such findings, legal steps should be taken. The Commission states that the funds of the EPF were lost mostly during that period. The Commission has submitted a full report covering the period of 2015 and 2016, comprising of 1,257 pages, and it is not an interim report. The Commission has taken 10 months for this task. I have already submitted this report to the Attorney General, and the Commission recommends that criminal and civil court action must be taken through the Criminal Investigations Department and the Bribery or Corruption Commission. The Commission has clearly stated the structure of the Central Bank, Public Debt Department, direct issuance of bonds, and the pros and cons of the system of bond issuances and bond auctions. The report states that Perpetual Treasuries Limited has made profits through illegal means with the involvement of Arjun Mahendran, bank officials and some outside individuals. In the auction held on the 27th of February 2015 alone, Perpetual Treasuries Limited has made a minimum benefit of over 688 million rupees. The Commission is of the opinion that further investigations could reveal that this amount could even be more than that. As revealed during the investigations, Perpetual Treasuries Limited has made undue profit of 11,145 million rupees in the secondary market. In this, the EPF and other government institutions had lost more than 8,524 million or 8.5 billion rupees. It is stated that senior officials of the central bank were inactive before the former governor of the central bank, Arjuna Mahendran. It is believed that because they had not questioned about these and had been inactive, such incorrect decisions were made. Mahendran has made interferences into bond auctions through a system of incorrect and unconventional methods, and he was responsible for providing internal information to outsiders. One party has used such information to obtain undue monetary profits. The Commission stated that moreover these facts were before the Cope Committee, and the Prime Minister had not stated that because he had not taken the proper action against Mahendran.
Mahendran mahata සම්බන්ධ විධිමත් පියවර නොගත් බවට එතුමා පැහැදිලි කර තිබෙන බව කොමිෂන් වාර්තාව සඳහන් කරනවා.
The President also commented on imposing punishments on those found accountable.
The Commission report refers to the allegation against former Finance Minister Ravi Karunanayake regarding the payment of rent for the penthouse apartment belonging to the Aloysius family and their Vault and Row company, and stated that Ravi Karunanayake was responsible for that and recommended that the government should take necessary action against Ravi Karunanayake under the section of bribery and corruption and further legal action under the penal codes for giving false evidence at the Commission. On the misuse of EPF funds, the Commission states that the EPF should be subject to a forensic audit examination. The report had recognized that the dishonesty of a particular party had led to this kind of malpractice on EPF funds. The people responsible for these frauds have been identified, and the Commission recommends legal action against them. The report recommends that legal action against relevant persons and officials who are responsible for the fraud, including Perpetual Treasuries Limited, Arjun Aloysius, Kasun Palisena, should be taken. Accordingly, the government is in consultation with the legal authorities. Considering the recommendations of the Commission, the government recommends adapting a new Monetary Law Act in order to avoid this kind of malpractice in the central bank in the future. The existing legal provisions are old and need to be replaced. It is also recommended that the Registered Share Market Act must be replaced by a new legal act. Members of the Monetary Board and Central Bank Governor must be appointed by the Constitutional Council in concurrence with members. The regulations must be amended accordingly.
How will the money be recovered? The President elaborated on the process.
The Commission has stated that the Attorney General and the Bribery or Corruption Commission should take legal action to implement the recommendations of the Commission. Under normal circumstances, recovery of money is done through civil legal action. However, it is a time-consuming method. As an alternative, the Commission recommends that a parliamentary legislation could be passed and the money could be recovered in a speedy manner through a parliamentary procedure. We agree with that recommendation. The recommendation of the Commission is that all the expenditure incurred for the Commission must be recovered from Perpetual Treasuries Limited. I have already submitted a copy of the Commission report to the Attorney General, and he will identify the persons against whom legal action must be taken and initiate necessary criminal or civil legal action to implement the recommendations of the Commission. I wish to clarify here that a minor amendment to the Bribery or Corruption Commission Act must be enacted to take legal action on the recommendations of the Commission. For this purpose, already experts at the legal draftsman are working on the required amendment.
What action will be taken? The President said the respective authorities have been instructed to take action.
I expect the Governor to make a statement in the near future regarding the shortcomings in the central bank as revealed in the Commission report. I urge the Justice Ministry and the Attorney General to take early steps to draft the 3 bills proposed by the Commission, present them to Parliament in order to make required changes at the central bank to ensure such corrupt practices, frauds and malpractices would not take place in the future. I have informed my secretary to hold monthly review meetings with the heads of relevant departments and institutions to examine the progress in implementations of the recommendations of the Commission, to take legal steps against those individuals and take other required steps in an efficient and speedy manner. I would like to specifically state here that I would not hesitate to take steps to recover the loss of 11,145 million rupees and take legal action against the offenders and punish them. A sum of 8,529 million of the total losses of 11,145 million was the funds of the EPF, Mahapula Scholarship Fund, NSB and Sri Lanka Insurance Corporation. The balance was from private institutions. Hence, the loss to the public sector, EPF, Mahapula, NDB and SLIC, was over 8.5 billion rupees. Perpetual Treasuries Limited has made this profit of 11,145 million rupees within a short period of 5 months. Finally, I would like to mention that this final report must be presented to Parliament, and through this initiative the report must be open to the public. In the future, necessary as well as legal steps in this regard will be taken expeditiously according to the advice of the Attorney General.
The President also commented on the reports of the Presidential Commission of Inquiry into serious acts of fraud and corruption, which was handed over to him yesterday.
Already 34 reports of the Commission have been handed over to me, and recently 17 reports have been handed over and another 17 previously. I have submitted the 17 reports handed over previously to the Attorney General to take necessary action through relevant institutions. By now, the Fraud and Corruption Commission, institutions, departments and police have taken actions to file cases based on the facts of these reports. The report, which was handed over to me 2 days ago, will be submitted to the Attorney General within the week to take appropriate action. I especially need to mention that actions on this report will be taken in the near future.
A
very good evening. In 2015, when the bond issue took place, Newsfirst was the first media outlet to highlight that something had gone wrong at that particular bond auction on the 27th of February 2015. The auction was on the 27th, and we highlighted it in our first ever report on the 8th of March 2015. It's been almost 3 years, and today the President, following the report of the Presidential Commission of Inquiry handed over to him, made a startling statement on the recommendations and the contents of the report of the Commission of Inquiry, where it holds several key players in this bond scam accountable for the wrongdoings that had taken place. For us, 3 years. You reported it first on the 8th of March 2015.
That's right.
And we've come a long way right now.
We've come a long way, but our message has been consistent. It has been of a severe and significant conflict of interest and of a departure from established process or procedure. Mm-hmm. These are the two items that we've continuously highlighted. At the beginning, I think there were a lot of people who believed that this was just the media having a go for nothing. They tried to muzzle us by issuing letters of demand, which were refuted instantly, and they tried all the tricks in the book. But our message was always the same: conflict of interest and a departure from process at the expense of the public money.
Indeed, for us. Now, for us, in the Commission's recommendations that the President read out today, they say that the Prime Minister should not have had faith on the assurances given by Mahendran and Samarasiri.
That's absolutely correct, and I couldn't agree more. And I'm so glad that the senior people there, the two serving Supreme Court judges and the third gentleman who's serving as the commissioners, pointed this out. Because, Zulfiq, we must bear in mind that the Prime Minister of this country and the person in charge of the subject of the central bank, Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe, is a seasoned, he's a qualified lawyer. He's spent 40 years in Parliament. He's led the United National Party for 23 years. And he has the distinguished record of being the Prime Minister of this country for 4 times. I'm not going to mention that he's also led his party to 22 electoral defeats. But my point being that he was a seasoned politician, fully aware of all the nuances. And it's absolutely unacceptable that he relied on the assurances given by Mr. Mahendran and didn't thereafter check. He could have done that even when he appointed his three-member Pitipana committee, made up of lawyers who were allies of the United National Party. Even then he didn't do that, Zulfiq.
You are absolutely correct, Fawaz. Now, the Commission has made its recommendations, and it clearly states that following the first bond auction, Perpetual Treasuries Limited, the controversial primary dealer organization, made a gain of 688 million rupees. And thereafter, they went on to cause the government a loss of more than 11 billion rupees.
That's right.
11,000 million rupees. Now, for us, comments have been made time and time again. If Arjuna Mahendran was removed from the post of governor, once the first bond auction was raised and public outcry continued, that 11 billion would have never occurred.
Absolutely. That is the very point everyone is making, that the opportunity to have stopped this whole scandal in its tracks was lost. But you see, the President, if you remember, wanted to appoint a commission all the way back then. But the Prime Minister, as the minister in charge of the subject of the central bank, came steaming in there and said, no, he will appoint a 3-member committee. And that even at that juncture, he didn't bother to check whether Mr. Mahendran had followed his instructions, in that he wanted his son-in-law to divest his interest and away from the ownership and the management of perpetual treasuries. Today we see a direct result of all this, and look at the significant cost in terms of time, in terms of finance, and in terms of the international image that has been damaged by this government. Remember, they came here on a ticket of good governance.
Yes, for us. Now, the figure of 11 billion, that's 11,000 million, for us, it wouldn't cost even 1 million to build a small house for a family.
No, I'm sure that it is less than that.
But for us, just imagine if this 11 billion, or a fraction of the 11 billion, was utilized to build houses for the people who don't have homes in the country. Sri Lanka would be the only country in the world where every single family has a house to live in.
Absolutely. And think of the people, there's talk of having steel houses, bricks and mortar and all this business. 65,000 homes is required by one ministry alone. With complete and reckless disregard for the needs and wants of the people of this country, of our country, they engaged in this absolute solo misadventure.
Thank you very much, Faraz, for your valuable contribution on this point, and thank you for highlighting this fact. And we also must thank the Attorney General's Department, the officers from the Attorney General's Department, for exposing the evidence, and also the members of the Criminal Investigations Department and people like senior lawyer Hemanta Varnakulusuviya,
Gominda
Sri, Mr. W. Vijayawardena, Rosikipala Tennakone,
absolutely,
and everyone else who has been very vocal to expose
and
this
we mustn't forget Maitri Gunaratne, who is also here.
Indeed. One final thing that we must say is the bond incident not only caused a loss to the government according to the recommendations of the report, it also tarnished the image of the country.
Absolutely, and that is rich, because if you remember, when this government wanted to be elected and sold us their plan, they said that the previous government had damaged irreparably the international standing of our country.
Thank you very much. For us, it's back to the studio.